All right, so now we have the capability of logging in with any user, right? Bob, Alice, right? Let's move on to other use cases, right? Being able to register or being able to find a user by username and whatnot. Okay, so let's go to register and let's play around with register. So right now we do have register, right? We can do PO, and we can register as user. Wait a minute, why does that? Did we ever implement a register? Sorry, that username is taken. Oh, okay. So it does add it. It did add it to the array, but it was not navigating to the okay. Well, we'll see how we can manipulate it. Let's go look at the controller for the register. Right? Let's open up the register controller. Let's close all these. And let's go and look at, okay, so let's see, we have user, controller, so we have the register page, there's the register page, there's the register controller. Let's see what the controller that we have. So this checks to see if the username doesn't match, if the passwords don't match, so it's doing some validation. It also checks to see if the username is already taken, right? So that needs to be asynchronous as well. Right, to check to see if that username is already registered. So that let's change that to be implemented on the server. Okay. All right. So let's see. This is implemented in the graduate. There it is. It's this one. Okay. And there it is. So right now it's iterating over the local array. We're going to modify that. It is going to look very, very similar to the find user by credentials. Okay. It's going to look almost identical, so I'm going to copy that and I'm going to bring it over. Right, the URL is going to be, I'm going to pass in graduate user. Here's a username, but I'm not going to pass the password. I'm checking to see if the username exists. Yes, and this is going to respond and just respond either with an actual user or not. Everybody okay? All right. If we go to the server, remember that this is mapped to return all the users, correct? But this time we're passing the username, but not the password, right? So let's we can now go back to the server logic, right? And we already have a find all users, which if I have username and password, is going to look for username and password and return that, right? But if I don't have username and password, if I only have username, right, but not the password, then I would want to do something else, right? So else, we can say here we can do an else if, right? We have username. Instead, what I want to do is iterate, looking for that user, right? So I'm iterating. I'm checking to see only the username. If I find it, I'm going to return the user, right? Otherwise, I'm going to say, no, I didn't find it. That username is not taken. Yes? Okay. All right. So let's try that again. If I go here and I refresh and I type in po, that I know that username doesn't exist. Let's see. What I get is a 404 telling me that. Yep, that user doesn't exist, right? Although this is saying, sorry, that username is taken. All right, let's see what's going on. But notice that I'm getting the 404, right? Username is not taken. That means that it should let me register. Okay? So let's go back to the controller and use that fact that we got an error. Okay, so if we go back to the controller, we're not going to use this anymore, right? So we're going to refactor this. This comes back here. A find user by username, yes. This is going to be a then, and there are two functions here. One for the success and one for the failure, right? So this first function is the success, meaning we did find the user. Yes? That means that we don't want to let them register. Yes? So in that case, we would say error message. We would display the error message, right? If instead, the second function The second function is the error function. Will be invoked if there is an error like a 404, which means that the user was not found, right? And that means that we should let them register with that. Make sense? Right? That means that we would want to do something like this. This is the logic for the error, right? We want to create that new user. Make sense? Okay. So that old code in there, I'm not gonna have. Ever still with me? Okay. Okay. So let's refresh this. Let's refresh, and let's do po, and po. So notice that it does navigate me to the profile, right? But the profile is looking at an ID that was created on the client, right? Was added to the array on the client, but the server doesn't know anything about it, right? Because it was created using the create user that is on the client, is not yet on the server. See that? So this is a mismatch here, right? The client thinks that it exists, but the server knows that it does not exist, right? So we need to fix that in a minute. But at least we see that this works. Okay. So if I refresh the server, it instead I go back here and try to register with a user that I know exists, like Bob, Bob, and I register. Notice that comes back with that the user does exist, right? And it tells me that, and so it's telling me that that user is taken. Make sense? So that our username logic works, right? Now let's focus on being able to create a user brand new, right? When that username is not taken. Okay? All right.